lovelies, and welcome to this latest video of mine, all about lovely Little Dolly Dot, my newest and latest little creation in the Little Dolly Dot range. First of all, I just want to go through what's actually provided in the kit for you, but primarily the video is going to be all about creating and applying, attaching her hair weft. Okay, so here she is, here's Little Dolly Dot in all her glory. So what you get in your kit is you get the pattern book, so very similar to the Polly Dolly pattern book with everything itemised out in steps for you, sequences showing you exactly how to construct and make your dolly. So it's all laid out there for you. Now you can actually follow along with the Polly Dolly videos because the construction of the body is very similar to my original Polly, with the only difference being obviously the hair weft, which is what primarily this video is all about today. So in your kit you get your pattern book with the pattern pieces. So there they all are. They're loose leaf, so there's no need to print them from the book. They're separate pages, so easy enough for you to keep these ones as your master copy and photocopy the pattern pieces off onto A4 card, and then you've always got your main pattern pieces separate as a master set. So in the kit you get your Mohair Weft. So I'm going to talk about the Mohair Wefts and the colours that we provide in a minute. So that's your pack of Mohair Weft. It's 4 meters long, 400 centimeters, and in there you also get a pony band and a couple of clear ponytail bands as well. You've got your skin colour, and again you've got the choice of the 6 colour shades to choose from. So that's peach, fair, sun-kissed, olive, russet and brown. So same colours as Polly, that can be used for Little Dolly Dot. You've got your head pack, and in there you've got everything to construct and make Little Dot's head, including the thread for the face. Now we've made a slight change on the way we provide the thread for the face. You've got the mouth colour and you've got the eye colour, but we haven't put the skin colour in, is what you use to create and sculpt her little bottom. That is now going in the Sew All thread pack, so you will get the correct colour that you need to construct her little bottom area inside your thread pack. With regarding the eye shade is only coming in one colour, as always, as it always has done, and that's dark brown. We did and ah between me, Ashley and Sharon as to whether to do little bobbins with all the different colours on, but it was just going to make it was just going to be too many colour combinations and too many choices for people to make once they were choosing their colours online. So with that in mind, we've got the additional colours for the eye colour. They're on the website, so you might want to choose a dark blue eye, or a pale blue eye like what Little Dolly Dot has got. You might want a dark green eye or a pale green eye, and then we've got a dark brown eye and a pale brown eye. I'm using this one today on the dolly that I'm using to sew the weft on, so you can see the pale brown. So yeah, if you wanted a different colour from the standard brown that's in the pack, then you can purchase these. I think they're about £1.10 on our website. So that you can get a different colour eye colour should you prefer. You've also got your panty pack, so in there that's enough to make her little panties and her pair of socks. You've got the petticoat pack, so a little tiny small petticoat with the broderie anglaise and the elastic, and then you've got the choice of 3 colours for her dresses in the lovely polka dot, and this is a poplin cotton, so it's a beautiful quality fabric. So we've got it in the lilac, the pink and the pale blue. Plus, I also forgot to mention that you do get your bag of stuffing as well, included in your kit, along with the 3 pieces of wadding that you need for constructing her head. So here she is, and as you can see, she's a real little cutie. She's a lot smaller than a Polly Dolly, She's got beautiful brushable, combable hair weft. She's got the traditional sleeveless dress, the little broderie anglaise frill petticoat, and her little pair of panties as well. Okay, now the colours of the wefts that I've got here in front of me, this is champagne, this is caramel, this is cinnamon curly, and this is golden straight. Okay, now this one is the one that you're going to see me today actually attach this hair weft to her. She's got the pale brown eyes, she's got the pale brown eyes, she's got the dark brown eyes, and she's got the pale blue eyes. Okay, just so that you can see the differences in the eyes as well. Okay. Okay, so these are the colours of the hair wefts that we've got. Going through, we've got champagne, golden, caramel, ginger, cinnamon, amber, brown, I'll come back to that brown, and chestnut. Okay, so right the way through to this lightest blondie colour. Now, when I've got these in from overseas, it's very difficult to order through a swatch or you know, on a screen. Now, the brown that I ordered is not quite as brown as I would have liked, so I am going to have to reorder because it's come out more of a goldeny colour. So if you've ordered brown from me, this is as per this video being recorded on the 7th of January 2023. I'm going to need to get a different colour brown in because this is too gold, but all the other colours are absolutely fine. The chestnut, which is the darkest one we do, we decided not to do black because the only problem with black is you're going to have to wash it before you use it because it does have dye transfer. So we went for the darkest one prior to black, which is this beautiful chestnutty colour. It's got a little bit of a reddish golden tint to it as well, so that's lovely. The one for the video that I'm going to be doing today, I'm going to be using this golden colour. Now the wefts, they are all 4 meters long, so you need 4 meters, that's 400 centimeters to actually go around your doll's head. Now in some of the packs of the wefts you might have 2 or 3 pieces, 2 or 3 cut pieces. That's absolutely fine. If you have got a join, there's no problem whatsoever because you just butt the 2 joins on together. So it's not going to make any difference whether you've got 1 long piece or whether you've got 2 or 3 pieces. It doesn't make any difference if there is a join. So all the wefts, these are the straight ones. They also come in the curly range as well. So there we go, we've got cinnamon, we've got golden, we've got caramel, ginger, cinnamon, amber, brown, which I will be changing, and chestnut. So yeah, so that is the colour range that we have opted for with our wefts. Okay, so before we go on to actually stitching the hair weft on, I thought I'd just do a quick going over of attaching her ears. Now as you can see, her ears are really, really diddy, tiny, tiny little ears. So I'm just going to basically show you again just how to position and attach her ears. So when you sew the ears on, draw around your template and then you can machine sew around the edge. Make sure that when you mark it out, you do it in an air erasable marker pen so that will disappear within a couple of hours. Now sometimes when you're sewing very small areas and you're sewing really slowly, sometimes your stitches might skip a little bit. Mine did on these, so I went round twice. Alternatively, if you can't sew on the machine something so small like that, it's quite easy just to hand sew around here just with a back stitch. So if you find that easier rather than machine stitching because you can't see the line under the foot, you can do a hand stitch around there. Okay, so once you've sewn the 2 ears, just separate them and then cut very closely. Don't use your pinking shears, just use your normal scissors. Cut very closely around that curved edge, close to your stitch line. Cut a bigger seam allowance, because that's what you need to turn it in with. If you cut that too small, then it's going to be a bit tricky turning that back on itself. So cut a good seam allowance, sort of, that's probably about 1/2 centimetre there. And then angle off the outside edges. So one there and one there. Okay, and then you're ready for turning. Now this is the real tricky bit. So what I like to do is to separate the two pieces of fabric. Take my hemistep scissors, my forceps, grab hold of that seam allowance there and lock the hemostat in place. Now if you're lucky enough to have hemostats that lock, it makes it so much easier. And then I've got to do this, pressing this against my tummy. I don't know whether you can still see, but you ease the outside edge of the fabric back over. Fiddly for sure, but as they say, where there's a will, there's a way. So just keep pulling those two seam allowances back and your inner fabric should appear coming through. And then you can take your hemostats off, unlock them. Give it a little turn out again. And then with your dotting tool, you can then get right in there and push out all the seam allowance. So yeah, take your dotting tool and just run it through the seam allowance just to push that out. And then you can fold that edge back in on itself. Now what you can do with that section there is to use your tweezers. So just poke it in. And then I'll take my tweezers and I just help to push it through. It's fiddly, but she does need these tiny, tiny little ears. Okay, so there you go. And then you're going to sew that seam up there. Okay, so here's one I've done earlier. So I've sewn that seam up. And then we need to fold the ear in half. And just do a couple of stitches just through the middle there, just to create that bend in the ear. Okay, that'll do. Just one more stitch to secure. And I'm going to take my thread out through the top section of the ear there, so it's ready to be sewn on to my dolly. Now what I tend to do is I attach one ear first, so get the positioning of that, and remember the top of your ear needs to be in alignment with approximately the bottom of your eye. Okay, if you Google children's faces, you'll see that ears are positioned more lower than the eye. Okay, so I always do mine top of the ear to the bottom of the eye. So once you've got the one ear on, it's then much easier to gauge and judge where the second ear is going to go. Again, trial and error, just keep putting it on, positioning it. If you don't like it, move it down. So I just use standard pins for these. I don't use the pearl head pins. I just use standard pins. Pop her on. I can feel where that cross mark is on the side of her face. I putting it on, and then I look at her from all angles and I think, well, is that the right position? Actually, first go, not bad at all. So I'm quite happy with that. If you weren't happy with it, then just move it, tweak it around until it matches the first ear that you've put on. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that positioning. So then the easy way to sew it on is to, once you've got that position, push the ear down flat like that. Take those 2 pins out that you've put in and move them up about 1/2 centimetre. So you know the positioning's right, but the pins are in the way. So move the pins up 1/2 centimetre. The ear is completely flat against her head. And it's now, because your sewing thread is at the top of the ear, you are now ready to do your mattress stitch just along that front edge. So I will continue to do that. So again, it's really tiny, weeny little mattress stitches. So I'm picking up a bit of the skin from the head, parallel, and then picking up a bit of skin from the ear, parallel. And just work your way all the way down that front edge of the ear. Very small little mattress stitches. And then when you get to the bottom of the ear, do that last stitch in the head, right at the bottom edge. Pull that nice and tight. Take your pins out. And then you can reposition that ear by pushing that fold backwards, getting your fingernail in there, pushing that fold backwards, keeping that ear in shape, pulling it back. Put 1 pin in on that curve of the pointy end of the ear, just put that 1 pin in, don't need that one now. And then continue to sew along this side edge here, keeping that ear pushed back so that it creates that funnel shape. Okay, so my first stitch is through the head, so my next stitch is going to be through the ear. So I've reached that centre point where my pin is, so I can take my pin out, and now I continue to do this side edge. And then when you've done that side edge, one final little stitch there, and I'm going to take that thread through her head out to the back, and I'm going to fasten off there and sink my tail. Okay, so she's now got her ears, 2 little ears, teeny weeny little ears. Yeah, lovely. Oh yeah, so wefts, as I say, they come in 4-metre lengths. And you'll notice on your weft, when you study it, let's get my end. If you look at it, you've got a shorter piece where the stitched line is. You've got a shorter turned over piece, and then on the other side you've got the long length. Okay, so you need to make sure that when you're sewing it on, that shorter piece is actually on the head. Okay, so you sew it with the shorter piece underneath. Okay. Now with the curly weft, at the bottom of the weft, it can be a little bit raggedy. Now again, this is just my preference. I like to completely undo the weft and then go through each piece, and just using my hairdressing scissors, but you can use whatever scissors you like. I just like to take off, and I cut it at an angle on a slant. I just like to take off that little tiny frizzy bit of the mohair. So work your way through it and just snip off at an angle that little tiny frizzy bit. Like I say, you don't have to do that, that's just my preference. You end up with a little pile of little frizz. Actually some frizzies on it, but yeah, that's my preference. It's just to snip off those edges. It just takes off all that sort of frizzy end there on the bottom. I just think it gives her more of a structured look for the curls. Moving on, we're now going to mark out for the positioning of the hair weft. So the first thing that you need to do is you need to put some pins in to denote where her hairline will be, and it's exactly the same principle as when you do Polly's hairline. Make sure that she's got a high forehead, because children have higher hairlines on their forehead. If you bring it down too low, it makes them look too old, so keep that hairline on the forehead quite high. So I'm just going to mark in the hairline along the front and also at the back, using these nice pearl head pins. So we've got a bit of shaping going over the ear. Don't make it too close to the ear, have a good little gap there. Repeat for the other side. Check for your positioning. You want that one there coming down parallel with the ear. So it's going to be about there, and I've got a little gap from the pin to the top of the ear. So again, this side parallel with that ear, just a little gap. Okay, so yeah, so I think that positioning looks good. So nice high hairline. Parallel, that pin there parallel with the ear, top of the ear there. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to mark this area off, and I'm going to use a pencil for this, a colouring pencil. I wouldn't advise using an air erasable marker pen for your spiral that you're going to do on your head, purely because it's going to take quite a long time to sew that spiral on, and you might find that your air erasable marker pen has disappeared as you're doing the spiral. Also with the heat of your hands, it's going to make it activate and disappear. So I like to use a colouring pencil, and I've just got this little brown set of colouring pencils that I will use. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to join all those pin marks together. Okay, so her hairline is now drawn on, and I can now remove all these pins. Okay. I'm just going to fill in the gaps. Okay, and the next thing we're going to do is we're going to position the spiral for the weft to be positioned. Now you need a tape measure. So from that hairline there, from that top of that hairline edge there, measure back 5 centimetres. So from the centre point, measure back to 5 centimetres and pop in a pin. Now that pin at the back there, that is going to be the crown. Okay, that's going to be the very top section of your spiral. Now if you were to put your spiral here, it means when you look at her face on, you are going to sort of see that stop part of the spiral. So that's why it's a good idea just to do the finish point of the hair at the back so you don't sort of see it from the front. So 5 centimetres up. Then take my tape measure, and from the back of her head I'm going to go 5 centimetres down, and then to the sides 5 centimetres over, same this side, so I've got my quarters, and then I'm going to just do another section of my 5 centimetres from that blue pin at the top. Okay, so I've got my pins positioned at 5 centimetres all the way along, and I'm now going to draw a circle completely around the head in between those pins. Take the pins out. Join up the dots. So now I've got the positioning for where my spiral is going to be. So that's the top uppermost section of the head. Okay, so now I'm going to draw in a spiral. Now the gap between the spiral edges needs to be roughly about the stitching on the weft, which is roughly, I would say, yeah, roughly 1/2 centimetre is what your stitch line is on your weft. So that is what we are drawing around. So from that centre back bit, just start on the line. Actually, I'm going this way, aren't I? And just start drawing out using your colouring pencil 1/2 centimetre all the way around on the inside of the circle that you've just drawn on. Okay, so I've come right to the top. I've done all the way around, spiral finishing right at that pin edge. Okay, so the next thing to do is to sew on the weft. So making sure that your short edge is towards the doll's skin. So I'm going to find my end, which is here. And then I'm going to be starting right at the back of that spiral. So short stumpy edge is against the skin. Now the thread that I've chosen to use for this colour weft, this is my olive sewing thread. So try to choose a thread which is as close match to the weft as possible. So I'm going to start in the centre. I'll keep that blue pin in for a while, just while I'm working. Okay, so you take your weft, and to start it off at that edge, I just do a couple of back stitches onto the weft, just to secure that edge. And then all I'm doing as I'm sewing on, I'm going just on the line and I'm doing a small slip stitch. Checking it's on the line each time I sew. Making sure it's going through the stitch line of the weft. And then when I've done a couple of centimetres, I just like to take my thread and basically do a fasten off stitch. Three little stitches. And the reason I do this is because if during any combing sessions of the doll's weft the thread should break, which is probably highly unlikely, but if it should break, then at least every 3 centimetres there's a fasten off area, so that you know you're not going to have a complete untangled weft on your dolly's head. So every 3 or 4 centimetres just do a couple of extra stitches just to hold it in place. It's time consuming. It's a lovely thing to do, the sort of thing that you'd want to do in front of the television. So I'm going to crack on sewing this first round on, put a bit of music on for you, and I'll see you back at the other end. Okay, so I'm coming to the end now, meeting up with my start point. Re-threaded my needle as well. Okay, so when you get to that start point, you just overlap and you continue to work, butting the weft closely together. So basically there's no gap, it's butted, it's not on top of each other, it's butted closely together. So I'm now continuing on round 2. Actually, I'll just count my rows for you. So I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12-ish. I've got 12-ish spirals going up. Now each time I do a round, I just take my comb and I give a little comb through. It just pulls out any bits that shouldn't be there, because don't forget it's mohair, so sometimes you get little flecks of something stuck in the mohair. So yeah, just give it a little comb through on each round. There you go, she's started to have her golden hair attached. So I'm now going to continue sewing this weft all the way round, but in each line close to the one before. I'm just working a spiral all the way round, and as I get to the back point, comb through. Okay, yeah, I've just stopped for 10 minutes and just had a little break, so I'm back on it now. I had a couple of scones, or scones, whatever you want to call them. Now that is a question, isn't it? Do you put on the cream first and then the jam, or do you put on the jam first and then the cream? Now I do believe that that is quite a big argument between Devon and Cornwall. They have a certain way of actually layering up their scones. To me, I don't think it really makes that much difference. However, I do put the jam on first, followed by the cream on top. But hey, what do I know? I'm just a Hampshire girl. Well, no, actually, I'm a Londoner, born and bred, Finsbury Park. Mum was from Finsbury Park and Dad was from Muswell Hill. And then we moved down here, all the family are up in London, and then we moved down here when I was 4. And my sister was 2, and my brother wasn't born at that time. So yeah, I thought I'd just have a little break before we get to the top of this spiral. My goodness me, it's absolutely blowing a hoolie out there. So I've just let the dogs out. Reluctantly, they didn't really want to go. And then poor little Coco and Pixie, bless them, because they've just had a litter each. Their fur has disappeared, so they've blown their coat. And actually they're bald as coops, a pair of them. So I do feel sorry when they have to go outside in the windy and the rain, and they haven't got any fur on them. Bless them. That's the only problem when they have the litters. They tend to shed all their fur, hence having to hoover every day to get rid of the fur everywhere. Right, nightmare. Joys of having doggies. Wouldn't be without them. Okay, so I'm going to speed up a bit more, and then we'll be getting right to the top of that spiral, which is obviously, as you can appreciate, is one of the hardest bits to do on attaching this doll making weft. Right, this is where it starts to get really tricky, this top little bit. So what you need to do is you need to shorten your stitches, so bring the stitches closer together, and you need to make sure that when you put your needle in, you're going through the skin and you're bringing it out at the bottom section of the sewn weft, and that will help it to lay flat. Now I'm going to have to do this really slowly because it's slipping on my table. And normally I would be doing this with her wedged in between my knees. Obviously I can't do that for video recording, so I'm trying to do as best as I can. And what you also need to do is you need to, where before you were butting each weft up close together, this time you need to slightly overlap each weft as you're getting towards the center. So just a slight overlap of the weft as you're moving closer to that pin. There's no rush, take your time, even if it means you pinning a little bit before you do a stitch. You know, do it that way if you find it easier. Now I'm going to take my blue pin out now because I don't need that anymore, because I know that I've come to the center point. So in through the skin and out through the bottom section of the stitches on the weft. Turn, poke it down. You have to sort of press it into place. Little stitch towards the bottom edge of the weft. Give it a little pull. Right, when you get to where it's really tiny, you can then cut your weft off. I'm just going to do one more stitch before I cut my weft. Okay, so now I'm going to snip my weft off. I probably need 2 more little turnarounds, so I'm cutting about 1 centimetre away from where I want. So I'll cut there. And then this time I'm going to put in a pin. Am I? I might be able to do it without putting in a pin actually. Yeah, I can hold on to that for dear life without it slipping on the table. Get another stitch in there through the skin into the weft. Going to do a double stitch there. Could do with another pair of hands here. I need 3 hands. then one final turn of the weft. So I've got my tweezers. Always a good idea to use tweezers because you can use those just to pull that weft round to that final little spiral bit. If she stops slipping on my table. So I'm going to pull that round into there. With my tweezers I'm going to push it down. So I'm sort of tucking it inside. So push down with the tweezers, tuck it inside, grab your needle, if I can find it, and a couple of stitches to hold in place. And then we can then bring the needle back out. So I'm going to take the needle through the weft, so it's right on the end of that weft. Take it down in through the head. So this is where you need to make sure you've got enough thread left on your needle. Bring that through. And then as you pull that through, that should sink in nicely down into the head. And then find where your needles come out. Separate her hair. And there it is. And then I'm just going to fasten off. Find a bit of skin. There's a bit of skin under there. Probably go up underneath that weft there. That's better. Let's get the needle back out. So I'm going to fasten off on that bit of skin that I can see there. Okay, so that's now nice and secure, not going anywhere. Slip my end. Okay, let's give her another comb. Okay, so that's the top spiral section of her hair added. Beautiful. Love running my hands through it. Onwards. So now we're going to do the back section of her head. So in your pack of Mohair Weft you would have got a little bag, and in there is a pony band and a couple of little clear bands as well for tying up. So you take your pony band and you need to pull all that hair upwards on top of her head. Okay, so you can be quite brutal, get it all up there, and then put that into the little pony band. It does slip as you're working, so you might need to re-put it in a couple of times. Okay, so now all that hair's out of the way, we can now concentrate on this back section. So taking your pencil again. Now you've got the bottom edge that you've already drawn in. So we're going to do a line again. Remember that line, about half a centimetre? The first one is going to be just at the bottom edge. Sort of coming up a little bit to where the side seams are of the head. And then another one. And another one. So I've done another 3 lines in all. Now I'm just checking where the, because this is the one that you want to be equal each side. So this point here, the side, to this point here, at that side, you want those equal. So bring that down to your half centimetre gap, and you're bringing that up to meet the other side. Okay, so now it should be running from there all the way around the back to here. And then we'll do another one. And again. They haven't by any means need to be perfect. It's just a rough guide, and if you don't follow the guide, that's no problem at all. So you're going to keep going along. And probably get just the one more in there. And then you're left with this little sort of triangle-y bit here. What you're going to do there is you're going to do some small lines, 1 or 2, might even get 3 in there. Probably only going to get 1 on this side, that's absolutely fine. Doesn't matter that it's not symmetrical, but the main one that you want to match is this one just above the ear here. So that one is levelling off all the way around to that side. Okay, so I'm going to thread my needle and I'm going to start sewing on the wefts, and I'm going to re-tie her back up again. Okay, so my needle is attached. Take my weft, double check that my shorter edge is going to be pressed against the head so that that's underneath. And then, like before, and on each piece of weft that I attach from now on, I am going to just do a couple of those stitches on the outside, just over the edge, just to secure that. And then, like before, I'm going to follow my line. I'm going to do a slip stitch. That's going to run along the length of the weft. Got a slight curve to it, this bottom one. And then when I'm getting nearer the edge, I can just judge how much I need. And then I will snip off what I don't want. keep my weft there so that I know that that's ready and the right way round for when I pick it up next time. Turn her over, and the same again, just seal off that outside edge by doing a couple of stitches on that edge there. Ooh, get over from your little ear. And then fasten that one off. So I'm going to rethread my needle and refasten back on over here. And on to the next one. Same as before. A couple of stitches on that outside edge. And then following your line, sew all the way along. Just slip that in there. And fasten off. And then, like before, when you were attaching the spiral, just give her a little comb each time you add a weft on. It's just going to take away all those little raggedy bits, make it nice and smooth. All those little bits, they all just come off. We don't want them. Throw them on the carpet. Okay, so I'm now going to continue to sew some more lines. Okay, so I've sewn a couple of lines on just up to over the ear, and then I suddenly realised I hadn't done the eyebrows, which I was supposed to do before I even started the hair. But hey, not to worry. So I've attached my eyebrow thread to the side of her head. I've used sort of a lightish brown colour. Well, no, it's not light, it's a mid-brown colour. And with my tape measure, I'm going to measure up 2 centimetres from the centre of the eye on the inside. So measure up 2 centimetres there, going upwards, pop in a pin, just a normal standard pin, and then from there I'm going to measure across 1.5 centimetres on a slant. So pop in another pin, 1.5, same the other side, centre inside edge of the eye, measuring up, little pin, 2 centimetres up, 1.5 centimetres over, slanting downwards. And then when you put your pins in, you can have a look at her and decide whether the positioning is right. This one is slightly higher than this one, so I'm going to bring this one down a tad and a bit more. So it's all trial and error. That one looks longer than that one. So I'm going to bring that one over just a bit. Yeah, I think that looks about right now. Okay, so I'm going to take my needle, which I've attached to the back of my head. I'm going to bring it out through this pin here. So bring it right out where the pin is going in. Take that pin out, pull the needle through. And then we're going to go in this one right where the pin is, and we're going to bring it out this side. Just keep moving it around till you get it exactly where the pin mark is. Pin out, pull that through, and then down in through that pin and out to the back of the head. Make sure your threads are nice and pulled. Check it, make sure you like it at this stage. If you don't like it, unpick it and start again. So easy enough to redo if it's not quite right. And then fasten that off. And I shall now continue sewing some more lines of the weft on. Okay, so I'm just coming to the end now. This is the last little line to sew on. I haven't had to add any little corner bits in. It just seemed to fit and flow nicely all the way around with the long wefts. Now I've got a little mark on this weft. It's just a little it's probably just a little bit of transfer of the dye from another colour on there. Now what I can do is I can either leave that on because you're not even going to notice, or I could just snip that bit off, cut it there and then rejoin. But you know what, I think I'm just going to leave it on because it's going to be under the top section of the hair anyway, so I don't think it's going to cause that much of a problem. So yeah, as you can see, the wefts all lined up quite nicely. I didn't have to do those 3 little sidey bits. So, you know, they're all going to be different. Might need to add a few little lines in here and there, or you might be lucky enough like this one was, and that this just went on with just the straight lines all the way through. So yeah, all good. So just finishing off this last little bit. Just snip off this weft here and secure the end. I want that. You always need to make sure that the next weft that you do, it overlaps the one before. It's not coming backwards from it, otherwise you're going to see the start point, the start and end point of it. So the next weft will always need to overlap slightly. So I'm just going to cut there. And then finish off by fastening off that little section there. And just fasten off in the skin somewhere so it won't notice. So yeah, so that's what you got left from your 400 centimeters. Just a small little section there, and that's going around the whole head, butting the wefts on close together. So let's just comb that last one I've put on, get rid of any fluffy bits. This is a beautiful colour, this golden, lovely. Then we can take her top knot out. Bring it down. She always looks like she's had a bad hair day at first. Give it a little comb. This is a great thing for kids to be able to comb the hair on these. which is lovely. Nothing like combing your dolly's hair. So yeah, as you can see, she looks like she's had a very bad hair day. She's very static. That's because we've been working on her. But you will find that the more you play with her hair, run it through your fingers, the oil from your hands will distribute through the mohair, and that will help to calm it down. I'm also going to show you another trick for getting it to lay flatter. I should get my iron out, plug it in, and that will be my next step. So yeah, you can see it's calmed down a lot more just by me rolling my hands, running my hands through her hair. Right, before I go on to show you how to iron her hair, I just want to show you a little bit about the curly. So you attach the curly hair exactly the same manner that you've attached the straight weft. The only difference being is when you get to that spiral at the top, because you can see that the curls are in sort of like strands of curls. As you start twisting around the top and it's getting smaller and smaller, what you need to do from about, I would say, yeah, from about that much up from the top of the crown, you would need to start separating the curls, because as it gets tighter and tighter and it gets smaller and smaller, those curls are becoming stretched. So what you would do is, as you're getting towards the top end, you just need to separate your curls. So just run your finger through and just separate them so they're not lying in thick clumps. They've now become more wispy. And you need to do that as you get towards the top end. You'll be able to see when it starts looking like it's sort of stretching the weft. You just separate those curls out at the top end, and it will make them turn and twist around that spiral much easier. Okay, so you can see what I've done. You get these black pieces of hair every now and again. You just need to pull them out. So yeah, you can see the difference. So that's where it's not been tweaked apart, and that's where it has been tweaked apart. It would be so much more easier to curl it into that spiral when they're wispier curls. Okay, but yeah, look at the golden curls. Isn't that beautiful? Oh my goodness, lovely. Okay, so let me just show you how you can make her hair a little bit flatter so that it's not so full in this area. So all you're going to do is take a piece of polycotton, spare piece of polycotton. And actually there's no reason why you couldn't probably use the polycotton in your kit for your petticoat for this exercise. Position the hair to the positioning of how you want it. So I like sort of like a sidey parting. So I'm just going to move that bit over that side. So comb it into the position that you want. It might be a middle part, it might be a side parting, whatever you prefer. Then once you've got that positioned, you can then place your polycotton over the top, hold it down nice and tight over her head, and then take a hot iron and just iron that nice and flat. And that will help to keep that mohair flatter. Just let it cool down before you take it off. Okay, so that's nicely cooled down now. So take that off. And then you can see it's just gone a little bit flatter on the top. Spirals more pushed inwards as well. Okay, you can iron that as much as you like, just to get it as flat as you would prefer. Okay, so all I need to do is add some blusher onto her little face. Okay, so let's take my blusher. Good old, I think it's a Miner's blusher I've had forever. It's just a cosmetic powder blusher. So as you do for Polly, put your brush in the blusher, but then just dab it off onto your tissue before you apply it to your doll, and just build it up nice and gradually. Small little strokes. It makes all the difference putting the blusher on to her face. It just sort of brings the face to life. And then I'm just going to add some on the forehead. A bit on her chin there. Okay, so that's basically all you need, a very small sprinkling of the blusher. Now also in your packet you had your little pony band in. You've got a couple of small clear little pony bands as well, and these are ideal for using to tie back her hair. So yeah, style however you know, whatever your heart desires. She looks really cute with some sticky out little ponytails there. So yeah, that's a good little one to do for her. Little sticky out ponytails. She could have a ponytail at the back, just going straight the way down at the back there. That looks really nice. You can take the sides, pull the sides back, and secure at the back with one of those little pony bands. That's really nice. Should probably just about get it round to do a side ponytail as well. The side there, use a couple of little clips at the back there to keep that in. So yeah, every little girl is going to absolutely love styling and playing with this hair, and the best thing about it is it's brushable, combable, so easy to run the comb through for endless hours of fun playing with her. So moving on, just a quick side note, I just wanted to show you these dolls. These are my textile dolls that I used to make prior to making Polly Dolly. These were the first dolls that I designed. Now they again have got the Mohair Wefts, as you can see, but the way I did their hair was it was falling from the side parting. So the wefts are going like that in a row along the top there, and then about 3 or 4 going that way, and then coming on from the spiral, but it's not a complete spiral, it's just going round from the side to the back, round like that. Now yes, great if you don't want all that hair flopping over the front of the face, okay, like in the demonstration I've just done, whereby you've got to pull it back. If you want the hair weft to fall over on this one side, then you're going to put it in a row. But the only problem with putting it in the row is that you can see the stitch line of the weft. I tried everything to cover it. When I first started making these dolls, I did the hair in so many different ways, but I just couldn't do it so that I could hide the line of the weft here. So what I did was I hot glued flowers on. Okay, that just covers up that weft. Now that's something that you could do, and if you just wanted to glue on some white flowers so that it would go with any outfit colour that she's wearing, then that's a a thing that you could do. Now what I will do is I'll put into the files on the Facebook group a little diagram of how I've done this, but basically you work out where your side parting will be, you start this end and then you lay the wefts like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 that way, and then 1, 2, 3, 4 that way, okay? But the weft at the end, where it's straight, you need to curve it slightly at the back bit. So each weft, starting from here, slightly curved along the back edge. And then when you've done those there, you pin that whole lot up into a ponytail, and then you continue to go round that way. And again, you can see the wefts are sewn on exactly the same way that I did what I'm showing you now. Also, the other thing is with all these dolls, I actually glued the wefts on. I didn't hand sew any of the wefts onto these dolls. I hot glued them on quicker than hand sewing them on. Makes head feel a little bit more harder if it is glued on, but yeah, that's a choice that you could, you might prefer to actually hot glue them on. Also, you can see that I have snipped away at the bottom edge of her hair because, as you know, the weft can be quite fine at the bottom edge. So a good pair of scissors, just run through the bottom edge, just takes that soft sort of fluffy edge off. So that's her. This is the curly haired version. So again, I did this was done in a spiral, like the way I've just shown you, but the spiral started more from the top. That's why she's got that hairband glued on, because you could see where I'd started at the top. But yeah, this is the like the coppery colour, curly. Now this is the brown colour that I'm trying to get hold of. So like I said earlier when I was showing you the wefts, the dark brown that we've got isn't quite the right colour. This is the brown I'm trying to get hold of. So bear with me for the moment until I can get the right colour of the brown. This has got the curly weft, but what I've done is I've run my fingers through the curls, so they're very much more separated. Okay, and I think I combed her, if I can remember rightly. I did comb her hair, so all those lovely curls that started off as curls like this, I got the comb and I combed them through, and then I ran my fingers through to make them a little bit more textured. So you will still get that lovely sort of crimpy curl with them. And also, because it's a natural product, because it's mohair, you can actually use your curling tongs on them or your straighteners or anything like that. Always a good idea to try it on a scrap piece first. But yeah, so that's what the curly hair looks like, scrunched out through your fingers. And then finally this one, I cut her hair. Now if you are going to cut the mohair, I messed up a few of my dolls when I was making these originally. It is quite difficult to cut it and just get it in a nice shape. So do be aware of that if you are going to cut, you might want to cut a fringe into it. So you might be well advised to get your hairdresser to do it, because they know all about sort of holding it up at that angle and then snipping down through it that way. So yeah, so she's got the hair a lot shorter. I cut quite a bit off of her length there. Yeah, she looks okay. Looks good, that length as well. And again, that's another brownie colour. There's two different browns there. One's a dark brown and one's a lighter brown. So yeah, I just thought I'd put those ones into the mix so you can see those. These have been packed away in my cupboard for years and years and years. And I always knew that I wanted to do a poly with the Mohair Weft. And now I'm looking at it and thinking, oh, do you know what, I really would like to do a doll with these eyelashes and painted faces. I'll have to work on some sort of template pattern for that, but I'm sure you guys would love to be able to create a little face like this as well. This is more of a grown-up doll, and I would say that this is more of a doll sitting on a shelf rather than sort of playing around with. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I do hope that you've enjoyed seeing the weft put on this lovely little dolly here in her golden colour hair. They're an absolute joy to make, and they are going to bring endless fun, lots of play value to any child that's looking for a new dolly. So thank you, and I really look forward to seeing your makes on our group in the future. See you later, guys.